As promised via response to a comment on my video, my late night rant number 3 on the MLP OCs, I'm going to give you guys a bit of advice on what personally I believe helps make sure that your MLP characters now become OC. Now, this can actually be applied to any fan character for any fandom. Just remove the pony and replace it with whatever the heck else you have. So, human, Warcraft character. I don't know what else there is in this world, but that kind of idea. So, first things first. If you now this doesn't apply to characters that you are simply drawing. If you're just drawing a character like a sketch for no reason, then feel free to do whatever you want. Honestly, I couldn't care less. But the problem arises when you start giving characters backstories and/or fan fictions. And that's when you actually start thrusting them into the MLP universe, and then that's when you actually have to take a critical eye and look at the character and think, is this character overpowered or not? So one of the first things you need to think about your character is after you've made the basic concept for them, look at them and look at them hard, and then take any shot in MLP that has background ponies in it, and then look at all the background ponies. Now look back at your character. Now look back at the background ponies. And tell me, would your character blend in well with the background ponies? I mean, if your character has a black coat and red mane, would that really blend in with a bunch of pastel colored, green coated, yellow maned? I'm only saying that because that's the color of my OC. But background OCs, would he fit in? And the chances are no. Now, I'm not saying that immediately condemns a character, but it is a rough start for someone like that. And the same thing for colors that are usually very monotone or too neon at the same time. So even when you're coloring your character, you need to be careful. But again, remember, this is not just for drawing. This is for a character with a backstory. So let's start looking at let's continue looking at the character in particular, though. Yes. So continuing, the character itself should be monospecies. In order to clear that up, unicorn, Pegasus, Earth pony, zebra, whatever you want. But mono, only one of those. I've seen a rash of zebra pegasi lately, and while the concept is interesting and it could happen, the only problem with that would be that if a zebra were to mate with a pegasus, the genes would be diluted, and in which case the pony that would come out, if they at all had both characteristics of the parent, would have weakened versions of them. So the stripes would not be as pronounced, and their wings would be very weak, like very weak, because they would inherit parts from the zebra mom or dad that would not be adapted to flying, so they would not be able to fly as well. So to understand the concept of cross-species breeding, that's something that I just kind of pulled out there. Same thing for like if you had a zebra and a unicorn, the magic would be very weak, if there at all. It might just have a horn that doesn't do anything, and it'd be very small. Another thing, if you give a backstory of like their parents were like a unicorn and a pegasus, they would not give birth to an alicorn. An alicorn is a completely different species and is not a viable option for the two to give birth to. You can always have a unicorn and a pegasus parent giving birth to a pure unicorn and a pure pegasus, but not a mix of the two, because that'd just be weird. So continuing on, we have don't over accessorize your character. I'm still talking about the physical aspects. I will get into storyline later. Try not to over accessorize your character. I mean, a few things here and there are okay. Just try not to like bangle them up all the way up their friggin' legs, and every bit of them is covered and all that stuff, because again, that doesn't fit into the background very well. You see characters with the occasional accessory, glasses, a hat, maybe mustache once in a while, But besides that, you don't usually see too many just covered in bracelets and earrings and cloaks. Continuing on, I think that's it for the physical. Oh yes, try not to put too many colors into their mane or coat. Understand the basic concept of Rainbow Dash can be the only is one of the only characters with rainbow colors. I find that people who use rainbow colors to color their mane are kind of, not to offend, but seem kind of lazy because they don't want to match the color of their mane to the color of their coat and make it kind of nice and look nice. So instead, they just put every color in there and just say, oh, whatever, I'll just do it that way. I would say no more than 3 would probably be good, and 3 is only in rare occasions. 2 is probably a more common one, is probably looked upon as best. And of course, you can always have monocolor, which is fine by me. So I guess continuing. Okay, I guess we'll go to the story. If you wrote a fanfic about your character, there's a few guidelines that you have to follow if you don't want too many people rolling their eyes as they read your fanfiction. Okay, so starting off, your character. I'm not even talking about HIE turn into a pony. I'm talking about if your character lived in Equestria their entire life. A few things that I found that seem kind of to irk me a little bit. Would be the distinctive lack of earth ponies that do not resent being an earth pony. You know, the kind of ponies that are like, they're earth ponies, but like, oh, I wish I was a unicorn or a Pegasus because they're so cool. If you do that, you're kind of missing the point of being an earth pony. You're just kind of making your character all angsty for nothing in order to get attention from other people. And one of the things you're going to see me keep going back to is that I'm going to say, you're doing this to get attention. And of course, not everyone does this what I'm saying in order to get attention, but it is what I'd say what the average person, when they incorporate this into their story, is looking to gain from it, even subconsciously. Even if you don't say, I'm going to get attention from this, you subconsciously in your mind, you think about that. So try not to make your earth ponies all angsty about not being Pegasi or unicorns. Understand the basic concept of how love works if you're making a romantic fic, especially with one of the main 6. Main 6 romance stories are usually something you want to steer away from altogether, simply because it's so overdone and not very many people can write it well. But if you do choose to stay on that path, understand that it takes more than 2 days for someone to fall in love with someone else. The whole love at first sight thing is, I don't believe in love at first sight personally. I believe in the concept of getting to know someone more than anything else. And even if you have the whole love at first sight thing, I've seen stories where characters have fallen in love and had sex in 2 days. And people like this for some reason. I don't understand why. And I personally believe that all it does is it makes your character and the main 6 character that you're with, even if it's not a main 6 character, even if it's an OC, makes the 2 characters that are involved appear very shallow, based solely on physical appearance, that they feel that they can have sex with this other person. I guess that's probably what I was going for, is just try not to understand the basic concept of love, how it works. Oftentimes, in order to fully understand your love for someone, you need to talk to them, spend time with them for months at a time, probably not progressing until more physical stages, until maybe even a year. And I know that seems like a boring story, but it's more realistic in a sense. Now, you can always do time skip if writing in between is not your thing, if you're doing something purely for the ideal of your character getting some, which is never something you should do, by the way. Don't write a story just so your character can have sex with the main 6. Which kind of brings me on to my next point. Make sure your character doesn't have Kirk syndrome. Now, what Kirk syndrome means that they are basically, every pony just falls in love with them instantly. This is the basis for a lot of your harem fictions and the ideology of basically just your character is irresistible in every way. Now, if you wrote a story like I don't think I've ever seen a harem story that does it well, with the exception of perhaps um 7 Days in Heaven wasn't really a harem story. It had the underlying tones and the ability to become one with logical sense, but it chose to turn away from it. So that's not really a harem story. I don't think there was ever one that I read that I said this is a good story. So that's just me. If you want to prove me wrong, go ahead and try. I'd be interested to see what you come up with, or you show me. But yeah, like I said, make sure they don't have Kirk syndrome. Try to keep it. Understand the whole concept of male to female ratio being skewed, and the idea that they might have polytheistic relationships, or not polytheistic, sorry, polygamistic relationships. Sorry, polytheistic means more than one god, which is kind of true actually. They are polytheistic because they have Luna and Celestia, so I was technically correct. They have Paulo something relationships, whatever. I can't remember what I just said like 15 seconds ago. So, understanding. So, even if you use all that stuff, you should probably keep the number of characters that your character is with to a minimum, probably maximum of 3, maybe. If you start going over 3, kind of start getting people rolling their eyes, and they're kind of thinking, okay, really, this guy is just being all up crazy, whatever, in it. Another thing you need to understand is that if you're going to do that, try not to make it all members of the main 6, because that just seems fundamentally broken. The idea of getting 3 or more of the friends of the main characters just makes your character seem like an overpowered kind of, especially since the main 6's personalities vary so much. They probably wouldn't have the same interest in stallions, and to think that your character would fulfill all the roles that they require of a stallion seems kind of narcissistic of you, I guess, would probably be the best term. I think I have a couple more. Your character should never, ever, ever be better than a canon character at something they can do. None of your characters, Pegasus, can perform a sonic Rainboom or their personal equivalent to the sonic Rainboom. That does not happen. Unfortunately, I've seen many people do this, and that's how Rainbow Dash falls in love with them or whatever. Now, not only is that way, way, way too powerful for a character to do, you need to understand the concept that Rainbow Dash trains constantly. So unless your character has been doing similar things, training every single day of their life, they will not be able to do something similar to what she can do. And that probably wouldn't make her fall in love with her or the character. It'd probably make her jealous and angry, as we saw in the Mysterious Maridouel episode. Rainbow Dash does not take other people stealing her limelight very kindly. So not only is the concept broken, the response is also kind of misleading or misplaced. I don't think if I have more. Try not to make your character overly violent in the MLP world, especially if you're going for, a basic canon storyline. I mean, if you're doing a Fallout Equestria story, well, it's gonna have to be violent. But I mean, like, if you're just regular, old, just regular Equestria universe, don't make your character like how Cutie Mark is like skulls and flames and all that stuff, because that just doesn't fit. Again, that goes back to would your character fit into the background idea. For any, if you ever have any questions, if your character is an OC, I'm going to link something below, and it's called the Litmus Mary Sue test. Now, what it is basically a whole bunch of multiple choice questions, and you fill in the answers, and you basically, it gives you a score at the end and tells you whether your character is a Mary Sue or not. Now, Mary Sue, for those of you who don't know, is the perfect character. Every single thing they do and every single way they are is just fantastic in every single way. and they are basically just a god amongst all other OCs. Now, when you take the test, you have to answer truthfully if you want to know if your character is a Mary Sue. So you have to answer 100% truthfully, and the higher your score is, the worse. So I think it's like if you score anywhere between 0 and 30, I think it was. There's a lot of questions in this test. Your character is basically, it would probably be okay to put out into the fandom, the world. I think the lowest I ever scored for a character was -5, and that was for my I made a dude once who was a misanthrope and basically disliked personal connections with people and speech and talking to people because he was afraid of them. He had a social phobic disorder as well, so it basically made him hate all others. But I don't know why I'm talking about this right now. So that's pretty much it. If there's anything I forgot, feel free to leave in the comments, and maybe I'll do a part 2 of this if I think of more. Second link is to a Tumblr called Terrible Ponies Tumblr. Now this is a Tumblr ran by, I believe it's a girl. I'm not positive, but I believe it is, who basically finds OCs from all over the internet that are basically just horrible. Either visually, their story is bad, or they seem very unlikely. There's a lot of alicorns on the site, as well as, you know, only so many people can be married to Princess Luna at the same time. But there's she's actually, the person's actually been getting a lot of grief for it. I refer to her as she. If she is a he, I apologize. Like, I really do. I'm sorry, that eye roll was not supposed to be included there. But I do apologize if you're a guy and you take offense by me calling you a girl. But people kind of hate on the Tumblr, saying that it's freedom of expression. But you need to understand the ideal that this person is putting out, that they look at the stories as well. And what I just explained to you guys is that a drawing is fine. Just a drawing, that's fine. But when you start incorporating a storyline to it, that's when we can start judging the character based on who they are. Because if you have an alicorn, but it has a very good reason for being an alicorn, I don't think I've seen one yet, but it has a very good reason, then I would say kudos, congratulations, that's a fine character. If you have, like, just whatever, as long as you give it a good backstory. And the thing is that this person goes through and finds the backstories, if there are any. If there's no backstories, and they kind of just judge it based on how the character looks, which I believe shouldn't be done, but at the same time, whatever. Finds the backstory and then judges them based on that, and I think that's the best way to do it. So, second link is to Terrible Ponies Tumblr. First link just Litmus Mary Sue test. Check them both out if you're interested. If you have an OC, or if you'd like to see an example of what you shouldn't do. Besides that, thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry if I offended anyone by this video. As always, these are just my personal opinions and the personal opinions of a person who is really sleep deprived and should be getting to bed because he has school like in 5 hours, but I really don't want to. So again, thank you guys for watching. That's about it. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys later.